Welcome to the University of Findlay's Arts and Culture Show. I am Sharinda Welton, your host, and we are excited to introduce to you Miss Amanda Vernon. Welcome to our set, Amanda.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's great to have you, and it's always fun to interview artists because everyone has a story, and you are currently on national tour as a musician, correct?
Correct.
But in addition to being a musician, you are also an author.
Yes, my first book is in publication now, so the audiobook and the ebook are already available, and then the printed copies are in progress.
That is so exciting.
Thank you.
And I have been able to see online some of the promo for it. I'm really excited about it from what I've been able to see. What is the title of the book?
So the title of my book is When God Wrecks Your Romance, which I think is kind of sassy because I'm kind of a sassy person.
And you say that so quiet and calm. No one's going to believe you.
Yeah.
So when God wrecks your marriage.
When God wrecks your
romance, okay.
God wrecks your romance.
So what is that going to be all about?
So When God Wrecks Your Romance is a co-authored memoir with one of my best friends who is a newly ordained priest, Catholic priest. So we grew up together as kids, like fell in love when we were younger, and then we tell the story of discerning and coming into just this belief that we were really called to different life paths. And so everybody knows the end of the story, which is that he's a priest, and I'm married happily to someone else, and we have lots of kids. And however, really the heart of the story is how we got here and how we ended up as best friends in the midst of it all.
And is there a possibility that this may eventually become a film?
Because
with the promo that you've done, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a movie.
I don't know. You're like the 72nd person who said this is going to be a movie.
I mean, yeah, we know the ending, but it's still suspenseful. It's still the journey. It's still the permission that if we're open to more in the universe than just our own self, there's maybe a different adventure that's going to be a better adventure for us. So there still could be a lot in that movie.
Well, thanks. I mean, I'm open to our book becoming a movie. I'm excited that it's a book first.
Well, in an audiobook, that'll get people thinking too.
Yeah, I do think it has a cinematic quality to the storytelling because I haven't actually read any other books that are written in this manner, but I have seen some movies like this. So I don't know if you remember the movie Groundhog's Day, where you go back and you relive the same day, but now you as the viewer, you have more information the second and third time you come around to this scene. And so there's something similar to that in my book where I write a chapter, and then Matt, now Father Matt writes his chapter, and you see this the same scene that we're both in playing out now from his perspective. So you understand what I was thinking, and now you see, what was he thinking at the same time? Where were the miscommunications? And just that the movement of the heart underneath what you would see on the outside.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And it's not from a perspective that's shared.
No, well.
But it's not. Oftentimes priests are asked, how did you know? Have you ever been in love? That kind of thing. And this is a story that's very honest about relationships.
Yeah, and what we've said is our story is not unique. I mean, ask any priest or any woman who happened to fall for a guy who joins the seminary. This is a story that, however, is not told publicly.
Exactly.
And so the fact that we're both sharing in a pretty detailed manner not only the events that formed our friendship, but also really the feelings as well. That is unorthodox. So the subtitle of our book is Orthodox Faith, Unorthodox Story.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, writer, musician, and we're going to get to the music part here in a minute because that's what you're on tour for. And that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you. But you're also, you'd mentioned you're married and you have children.
Yes.
So,
Lots.
and I think that they're all under the age of 9, correct?
Yes. So they are 2, 4, 6, and 8.
And none of those are twins.
Right.
So you've been very busy. Because you're only 16. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. It's amazing.
Yes.
It's time warp.
Yes. So we were talking a little at dinner last evening about how do you do it all?
Right.
You're a super mom, you're a super wife, you're an author, you're a musician, but you said there's a secret.
Yes.
And it's not a secret. You were very clear. You are a very blessed individual.
Yes,
so.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, over dinner I said, well, I'm married to a saint, or at least a saint in the making, and my husband, David, he is incredible, and he doesn't know. He does not know.
He just does it.
How incredible he is, and I try to tell him, and sometimes he's like, okay. Like, you're just so amazing. And his humility, his peacefulness with taking a behind-the-scenes role. And that is what allows me to be a mom and to, at the same time, have a sense of tranquility with going out and traveling across the world. Right now, you mentioned I'm on a national tour, and I am not torn about that. I mean, I miss my kids, but I also know they're with the best person I know at home with my husband. But it's also because he is genuinely content to support me in that role. There's no sort of like passive aggressive, like, well, off you go again. You know, I mean, none of that. And because one time he told me, I was asking him, like, are you sure you're okay with this? Like, I'm traveling around the country and you're there with the kids and no one really sees the work that you're doing behind the scenes. And I was kind of just really
you're maybe home
fretting.
on a weekend just to wash clothes and get back out on the road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm home, 2 nights at a time, and it's a whirlwind. And he said to me, he just kind of stopped me and he said, Amanda, this is not like your success versus my success. He said, if you're successful, I'm happy.
Oh.
Man. Okay.
That's a gift.
Such a gift, yeah.
So he also is involved with helping behind the scenes with the career, correct?
Yeah.
So he has a team that he has engaged, and I've never heard, and I've been working with artists for a long time. I'm not going to date myself, but it's been more than 15 years. I've never heard an artist say while they're on the road, I really don't have to check in and do the behind the scenes because I trust my team.
Right.
And then as we continued to visit, you were telling me how amazing David was and is. And so I was like, okay, so maybe CEO of team and then great communication and then support. And it's just awesome that you're in a place like that because I've never met an artist that can say, I totally trust my team. And that's a gift also.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think especially balancing like mom life and marriage and then being a full-time musician, I decided I have to accept help in order to do those roles
and
well.
All of them have been callings.
Right, and I mean, I feel a sense of that, as you said, calling. I feel a sense of calling to all of those roles, and yet there's too much within all of those for me to just handle it myself. And so I have been blessed with a team of people to help me, but also I've chosen to trust them. Ultimately to trust God, but to allow people to take some of those like administrative tasks like, you know, where am I staying tonight? Like, what hotel is it going to be?
Do I have a
Sometimes I don't
confirmation
even
number?
check until I arrive, which might be irresponsible. But really, I don't think it is, because I do trust the people who are helping me to have that.
Setting you up for success.
Yeah, to have it set up for me. And I think even like being a mom, I learned that early on. Like sometimes you just had to let somebody step in and help in order so that I can take care of myself as well, to be healthy and strong for my kids.
Well, and you're giving them permission to build relationships with individuals that maybe they wouldn't have that opportunity in a intimate way of character building and the stories and the exposure. So you're giving them a gift that sometimes what children don't know, you know, they can't miss. But you're giving them something that later on down the line, they're going to be able to go, wow, that's a cool gift. Those relationships. So, so let's talk about music. And let's talk about who Amanda is beyond the titles and the roles of workplaces. You live in Arizona now, that's home base, but that is not where you grew up.
No.
You grew up in the good old Midwest.
That's right. I'm a Midwest girl through and through.
You cracked me up when you said, if there's a little snow, let me have it. I love to drive in it. And we did that just for you. A little freezing frost or fog in the morning, snow and rain in the evening.
Good to be home. It's great to be home.
So, Wisconsin and Michigan, correct?
Yes, so I was born in Wisconsin, raised in Michigan.
Okay. And with your musical talents, you had the opportunity, amongst many other places, to sing for the NFL, the Star Spangled Banner in Lambeau Field, correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did twice. I sang the national anthem for the Green Bay Packers twice. The first, I think maybe it was like my audition, because they had me for a preseason game. And then the following year they said, we are hosting a Monday Night Football game. They're going to air the anthem. They asked us to find someone really good, so we're calling you. And I was just like, okay, my world, can we just crystallize this moment? This is my real world.
Yeah.
It was just because I'm born and bred Packer fan, because my parents are both from Wisconsin. So this was not just like
an
international stage. I mean, that would be awesome too, but the fact that it was
your team.
Yeah, my team, and this represented like my family and what I grew up loving, and it was just like this sort of culmination of just what I love to celebrate, and my family and my music all mixed together.
And when I'm watching it on YouTube, I think of you as kind of in this beautiful snow globe arena, you know, because you're just placed in and hugged by all of the fans, and you are just singing away. So, growing up in Wisconsin, and you mentioned your parents, they were big influencers on you when it came to music, and will you share a little bit of that with us?
Sure. Yeah, so my parents are both from Wisconsin, and then they moved to Michigan when I was first born. So even though we'd go back to Wisconsin on family vacations, they were in a sense just sort of like on their own, as far as we weren't next to grandparents and cousins. I mean, unless we'd go to travel to see them. So my parents taught me that by valuing the relationships first, other things would fall into place. And they first and foremost valued their marriage. And then all of us 7 children, of whom I'm the eldest.
Oh my goodness.
So, I've been realizing more and more just how much respect I have for my parents, beyond like honor your father and mother. Like that's a smart, wise thing to do, but like I really do. Like I really appreciate the values that they showed me and that they instilled in me, and I really would like to be like that. And
with some of that installation came the influence of music.
Yeah.
Because music was a big part of your family.
Yeah.
So what were the genres? What were the styles? What were you exposed to that opened up that interest and made it a hunger for you?
Right. I mean, primarily gospel music. So my dad would just sing. I remember him singing around the house when I was growing up, especially when I was very young. Later, as I grew up, he said he passed the baton to me, so he wasn't singing as often around the house. But at that time, when I was very young, he was still involved in choirs and practicing harmonies. And primarily, there were these songs handed down generation to generation, beginning in slavery. So these African American spirituals. So I don't know a lot about the history of my family on my dad's side because they were brought to this country in chains as slaves. So a lot of our history was lost. But I do know this strength and joy and perseverance in the midst of like these tremendous trials. And that came to life for me through these songs that we call spirituals. And so now, even though I play various genres, and I call my own genre soulful pop, I hope that spirituality, that drives that music of my ancestors can also be heard in whatever I sing.
And I think from everything I've heard, it's there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And something else that I absolutely love about your music is that you sing bilingually.
Yeah.
And you do it amazingly well.
Thanks.
And to the tune that people started asking, will you record something?
Right.
And you have done that through social media, YouTube. You have a beautiful lullaby. I know I keep talking about it, but I just absolutely love it. But it's done both in English and Spanish.
Right.
And then you do all of the harmonies against yourself, correct? Because students had asked me that when I shared it with them. Because if I hear something and it touches my heartstrings, then I'm like, students, come and see this. And the first thing they said was, are those all her vocals? And I'm like, So that's really cool.
Oh, thanks.
And I invite you to check it out on YouTube. And what is the name of that song?
Oh, that's Sleep with the Angels.
Yes.
So if you just go to YouTube, Sleep with the Angels, and then Amanda Vernon. There's a
It's an
performance
amazing
Thank you.
arrangement. And so people were, because I know you sing both in English and Spanish in your live concerts, and so there's been a lot of requests. So this year, how many albums have you done so far?
I've recorded 8. Seems like a lot.
Which that's called accomplishment, and that's why Daddy quit singing, because you had so much to share and learn and process growing up. So, but yes, successfully 8 have been released, and I know there are many more to come because you're just getting started, kiddo.
Thank you.
But let's talk about this one because it's like hot off the press, this English, Spanish, and I just happen to have a copy right here, and I'm excited about that. I'm gonna show it to our viewing audience. And I was practicing how to pronounce it before we came on set. Secretos Navideños.
There you go.
All right. And that actually means Christmas songs, secrets of the Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas secrets.
So, and it's a beautiful cover.
Thank you.
A little bit of the Arizona sunshine there with Christmas.
There. Yeah, you're right.
But tell me about this album. What inspired you besides all of the requests?
Right.
Because everything you do, I know, comes from the heart.
Oh, thank you.
You are very welcome. So tell us what got you thinking about doing this particular album.
Yeah, well, Secretos Navideños is my first full-length album in Spanish. And I knew I knew it was time to record an album in Spanish because, as you said, there have been many requests. And really, the language of Spanish, I find, it is my second language, but I prefer it over English because I think it's so musical.
It is. It's very melodic.
Like the vowel sounds are very open, so it's far easier to sing. It just lends itself to song. And if I take a song that I've grown up singing in English and then sing it in Spanish, I feel like I can sing higher and stronger, just more naturally, because my my vocals are just automatically more open. So I'll give you an example for this one. The song "O Come Emmanuel" is popular around Advent, this time of year. The chorus is "Rejoice, rejoice." So you think about rejoice, rejoice. Okay. Well, in Spanish, the translation is "Alégrate." So you see how, like, even just the shape of my mouth, "Alégrate," it's just everything is open.
Yes.
And so, you know, I love my native language, my mother tongue of English, but being able to express the same sentiment in a different language, in this Romance language, is just so fun for me. And then at the same time, last year, I was navigating some really dire postpartum depression. And so it was time to record music, and most of my music is a little
Poppy
sassy.
jazz,
The songs that I've written, and I started translating those into Spanish. I'm like, all of these songs are sassy. Why is that? I said to my translator, she's like, well, have you heard your music? I mean, this is kind of like the music you write. I was like, oh. So I decided to play music that would be the most soothing to my soul, and that's Christmas music. And so to sing Christmas music in Spanish was just like a soothing balm for me, and I hope that sense of serenity comes across as well for listeners.
So with being on the national tour right now and it being coming into the Christmas season, are you sharing these songs live in all Spanish because you know that people recognize the tunes from the English?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to sing these today. This will be the first time really that I'm introducing this music since the album is released, and then it's the Christmas season, so it's just a really exciting day to be at the University of Findlay and being able to share Secretos Navideños really for the first time.
Great. And so let's talk about a couple of your other albums that you're touring with also, because pre that, these were your latest albums, correct? So we have Acoustic Collection by Amanda Vernon, and some people would be like, she plays the piano. How is that acoustic? But a lot of what you do is on electric keys.
Right.
And so that you can get a lot of different tones, warmth, coolness, where when you're on a true piano, you have, it's very different, and you have control with 3 pedals and a couple ways you can do a chord, but it's really, it's more raw.
Exactly, and this is a live concert as well. So you hear the audience singing along with me and the ambiance of this cathedral in which I sang. So it's definitely a very raw recording. I tend to favor the studio productions just because you can get so precise and have all these different instruments and they just sit in the right spot in your headphones, you know. But for my friends who really enjoy that sense of like just sitting down and listening to the artist live, that's what the Acoustic Collection
The
captures.
earthy feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you don't have the total control. There's other things. And it works. So that's great. And you are so photogenic.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Beautiful. And then we have this one, Interior Gaze.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that your music speaks to you as you go through journeys, as many true musicians do. They tell their stories instead of being a motivational speaker, they tell them through their songs.
Right.
And I'm guessing that this is one of those albums that offers some insight and hopefully some connection to encourage someone else with where they're at.
Right, I hope so. You know, recently I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw an ad from CoverGirl, and their new slogan, it's not, remember their old slogan was like the easy breezy CoverGirl?
Yes.
Right? So their new one is CoverGirl, you are what you make up. And I thought it was pretty ingenious for a makeup company. Right, but as I thought about it, probably deeper than CoverGirl might have intended, I just thought, like, is that true? Like, I am what I make up. Like, if I put my makeup on and I put on a happy face, and I'm happy because I
did that?
Yeah, because I did that. What about the part of me that might be feeling conflicted, or what if I'm sad and, like, I'm not showing that? What is that part of me? And so I'm not going to go on a hashtag like Uncover Girl campaign or anything.
Right.
Well, that would be fun. But but I do think that this theme of interior gaze is so important, to be able to see somebody for who they really are, beyond what the surface might say. I mean, to use the surface as an indicator, but to realize there's so much more to each of us than initially meets that.
And so permission, we want to give people permission to be who they are instead of giving them the facade that they have to make something up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So lots of music, writing. We want to keep in touch with you. We want to know more. We want to know what's coming up.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah, so I mean, my website, amandavernon.com, my albums are available on there, but I'm pretty sure that Spotify is an easy way for people if they already have the app and just can open it up and look for Amanda Vernon. And my latest Christmas music is available to stream on there, and on YouTube as well. So I have a show where I release a new song and then I explain some of the background of the song. And in the next upcoming year, you can look for a vlog, because I'm gonna switch over to a new format where I'm really showing what it's like to be on tour and what it's like to meet so many awesome people around the country and be able to share my music for so many different groups of people. So I'm pretty excited to get started with production for my blog.
Sure. And you mentioned Spotify. Some people, grandmas, grandpas, they may not be familiar with what Spotify is.
Sure.
Could you explain that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so music that you would just stream. In other words, you'd open up the app on your phone and you'd hit play, and you could just listen to my music automatically. And I get paid a little bit for each listen.
3 cents.
So if everyone in the state of Ohio listens once, that will all contribute to the Feed the Children Fund. Those are my children. However, also, old school CDs are available on my website. So if you go to amandavernon.com and click music, you can just order a CD, and either we'll send you the physical copy, or if you want to download MP3s and then you have those files available on your computer, you can do that too.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
and so let's talk a little bit, because we've talked about your national tour right now, but you had mentioned when you sang the Star Spangled Banner for the Packers, that was an international
13
introduction.
million people around the world.
But not just that, but you've had many opportunities and doors open from many different ways that you network. How many countries have you had the privilege of performing in?
Yeah, so I've sung in 6 foreign countries, giving concerts, and most of those, all of them, were involved with ministry. So being raised Catholic and just growing up sharing my music in my faith community, that opened a lot of doors for me to share with Catholic communities around the world. Yeah.
Well, and you have had the honor of being part of, I know, 2 specific World Youth Day Congress settings. And one of those was that in Australia?
Yeah, in Sydney, Australia.
How
so
special.
I got to sing in Canberra when I was there, and then also in Sydney, the capital. Canberra's actually the capital. It's just so much smaller. And then Sydney is this huge metropolis. And at the same time, in addition to singing for Australians, there were people from
All
around
over,
the world
yes.
for this World Youth Day event. And man, that was like a glimpse of heaven, just every nation, every tribe sort of thing. And just to see people greeting one another like they were already friends when they had never met and likely will not see each other again was incredible.
And where was the other one? Because I know you sang for another one.
Yeah, in Spain, Madrid, Spain. And that one I brought my husband and at the time our only baby, and he was 10 months, so he was one of the youngest youth at World Youth Day. And I remember there was one concert that I gave toward the end of this World Youth Day. It was called World Youth Day, but there are several days.
Sure, yeah, it's
a
like
long
a big
day.
camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was singing at this park, and there were thousands of people listening, and David, my husband, was playing the drums, and the audience was singing back or singing "Oh Happy Day" and other call and response songs, and then somebody from the back yells, "Jamal," which is my son. And it's just so sweet to feel really embraced, not only as an artist but on behalf of my family, and that
they were there to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that sense of just this support of who I am as an artist, but also as a wife and a mom, I have definitely found that in the Catholic community, but also far beyond that as well.
Well, that's what we want, right? We want to be part of a family.
Yeah.
And that's part of what faith is to bring people together, to have that camaraderie and accountability sometimes.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And then, of course, the time to celebrate. So, and we're going into a season of celebration for many, and we are so thankful that you were able to find time in your crazy busy schedule to visit with us and be able to introduce you to our viewing audience.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here, and thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of University of Findlay's Art and Culture Show. Thank you. Be well.